Okay, let's talk about this question. Using any three prescribed texts show how betrayal brings pain. Betrayal. So the focus is on betrayal, and you have to show how the betrayal brings pain. In twilight of misty foliage, the administrators and the others betray their sense of duty to the masses. The administrators will always require money for petrol before they can swing into action to carry out their duties. Mponwe connives with Sergeant elites to take away the administrative seat from Sambis, thereby making the once bustling economic area and the market to decline and for the people to suffer from economic hardship. He also includes the name of non-Sambisans in the Sambis delegation to take part in the consultation meeting at Market and attempts to bribe BMI, but he refuses. At the end of it all, some concessions are made and the Sambis delegation goes back home chanting songs of victory. Next, Reverend Rod Beggar betrays his clerical vows of living an exemplary life and that of celibacy. He is very corrupt. He is one of those who masterminds the subjugation and marginalization of Sambis. He also spearheads the taking away of the administrative seat from Sambis to give to Sajem. He and Ponwe craft a plan to defraud money by adding non-Sambisans on the list of Sambis delegation with the intention to swing the deliberation in favor of Sajem and ask the participant to sign against their name for an amount of money, but that which is handed to them is lesser. It's less. Apart from that, he is full of evil and jealousy for Cardinal Mpochueng, who has been made a cardinal at a very tender and young age. His popularity makes him to develop special hatred for him and gets the services of Dracula and his gang, who abduct the cardinal, torture him, and leave him thinking that he is dead, but miraculously he survives. Morally, he is a womanizer. Bimai said he had once come to the off license in the bar with a prostitute. Everywhere he works in the parishes, the reverend sisters are afraid to be left alone in his presence for fear that they can be sexually assaulted. He has fathered 4 carbon-bred children with 4 different women. When he visits the Decca, his house to find out the impression that the people have about the church, he focuses on her breasts and her buttocks. Bimai betrays Akbe, who had sent him to school despite not being related. He refuses to study. He is also a womanizer. He joins Akbe's enemies and even threatens him and his family for elimination through mystical means. He slanders his name for not paying his tuition, whereas he had done so, and he had even given him a huge amount of money to start a business in which he fails, leaving Akpe in emotional pain for such show of ingratitude. Sister Mbapyong betrays the trust given to her to handle finances. For the mission that has to take place, the cardinal has to go to the treasury to collect the money and hand it over to Reverend Rothberger. But when he comes to collect the money, the Reverend Sister had deliberately taken off some banknotes from the bundles in the middle. But for the vigilance of the cardinal, who had taken pains to count the money and realizes that some banknotes are missing. Miraculously, the Reverend Sister replaces the missing banknotes, highlighting corruption. The thing, he betrays the hospitality given to him where he is resident and where he has made a lot of fortune. He takes a contract to seek out the Gangbo family that are hiding in the cave, protected by the fawn of Faimbo, and the villagers who have transformed themselves to bees, protecting the entrance of the cave. When his attempt fails, the villagers and their bees, which they have transformed, go to his compound, attack all his animals and his children and wife, killing all his animals, and at the end, he loses everything, packs, and goes back to his village, a broke man. And in addition, he also realizes that the money that had been paid to him was fake currency. He loses everything, moving from grace to grass. Ntombo is betrayed by his country for being too patriotic. He protests about the exploitation of the resources of Wanetemo. He writes a petition about the manner in which Don Castro and the Pong landers are exploiting the resources of Wanetemo, whereas the country lacks development and basic necessities. He and his entire family is murdered by state-sponsored violence, and no one is charged for the murder, highlighting exploitation, violence, and man's inhumanity to man. The people of Wadete had been living a peaceful and honorable life when the resources are discovered by Don Castro, and the state asked those who own farms and land near the said resources to vacate without compensation, further impoverishing the people who barely survive. Kunam betrays his love for his wife by having multiple mistresses in the village, and she gets very annoyed about his infidelity and refuses to give him food, pushing him to steal food at night, and he is caught and left in shame. Aime's wife betrays her love for her husband by having an extramarital affair with Inspector Evie, who sleeps with her on her matrimonial bed. Her husband catches them right-handed, seizes his gun and his uniform, but he is pleaded with and promised some compensation. When he goes to receive the compensation for the injury or privacy that had been attacked, he is arrested. He is hastily judged on charges of violence on a uniformed officer, and he is imprisoned, highlighting corruption in the legal system. Dracula and his gang betrayed the trust, love, and hospitality that the cardinal had shown them while at the bishop's house in Liba. They have a sinister agenda given to them by Reverend Rothberger, and despite the fact that the cardinal gives them food and shelter, they abduct him at night. They inflict much pain on him, leaving him thinking that he is dead, but he miraculously survives, highlighting hypocrisy and evil in the society. In the swamp dwellers, Awuchike betrays his love for family. He abandons his family without a word or assistance. And when his brother meets him in the city, he robs his brother of his manhood and of everything that he has. He also seduces his wife and leaves him frustrated to go back home, highlighting neglect and ingratitude. Desala betrays her love for Igwezu, who takes her to the city as she had demanded. But when she reaches there, she's enticed by Awuchike's wealth. She abandons her husband for his brother, highlighting materialism and infidelity. The Kadiye betrays the trust that the people have about his infallibility as the chief priest of the serpent. He is supposed to be the guarantor of the happiness of the people by taking sacrificial offerings to the serpent. Nevertheless, he feeds fat on these items, leaving the serpent angry. When Igwezu returns very angry, he confronts and unmasks the Kadiye to show how exploitative he is. This clearly shows that the Kadiye uses these offerings for his personal welfare, highlighting hypocrisy, great abuse of power, and exploitation. The climate also betrays the hard work of the people in the north when there is a drought. But when rain falls, the people plant and cultivate crops which sprout, but later on, these very crops are destroyed by locusts, thereby shattering their hopes. Many people leave to the cities to beg for alms, but the blind beggar decides to move southwards where there is water, where he can earn a decent living by working with his hands, highlighting misery and determination. In the south, the floods also destroy crops. Before Igwezu leaves for the city, he had planted corn on his farm. And when he is coming back, he wants to fall back on what he had left home. But unfortunately, when he comes back home, he is disappointed to find his farm and crops destroyed, leaving the farm in ruins, highlighting frustration and misery. In unanswered cries, Makalai betrays Olabisi by invading her privacy. Olabisi gets involved in the fight with Yapose's daughter, and she is brought home unconscious. In her unconscious state, Makalai realizes that she is no longer a virgin, and she wants her to be circumcised because she thinks she cannot control her sexual urges. Olabisi flees to the forest, and later on, with the help of Pa Amadu, she gains her freedom to go to Freetown, highlighting conflict, tradition, and determination. Makalai contracts Pa Amadu to seek Olabisi and bring her back in exchange of a handsome reward. Pa Amadu meets Olabisi, who has escaped from the Bondo women and the crocodile-infested river. She gives him some money and convinces him to help her to escape to Freetown, which he does, leaving Makalai to take the long journey to come to Freetown in order to take her back, but Adejohn refuses. Excuse me. Eddie Cole betrays the trust and love of Olabisi by exposing their relationship to lawyer Sisai. He uses the information in court to prove that Olabisi is unable to control her sexual urge and therefore needs to be circumcised. She is disgraced in front of her father and she is in pain. And she decides to put an end to her relationship with Eddie Cole, highlighting conflict. Lastly, Ade Jones betrays the love for Makalai by answering and abandoning her at birth of Olabisi. Don't forget that they had been dating. She harbors some deep resentment and hatred towards him for abandoning her with the baby after giving birth to Olabisi. She does not want his name to be mentioned by Olabisi anywhere, and she challenges him in court over Labisi's circumcision, which ends in favor of Ade Williams. In the cosmic anthology of poetry, in cruel megalomaniacal leaders, the leaders betray their citizens by feeling so powerful once they get to power. They send away those who oppose them to exile. They are very oppressive and use violence as a mode of governance. They impoverish the masses through bad governance. They do not want to leave power. They are inhumane and like to inflict pain on their people. In How Can I Sing? The leaders have betrayed their countrymen by allying themselves with Europeans who exploit the resources of the nation, and the foreigners use these resources to develop their countries while their own countries suffer under the weight of underdevelopment. The corrupt leadership is characterized by brutality and injustices in society. The prosperity of the country can only be achieved through patriotism, governance, and social justice. Nevertheless, we know that the citizens live in pain and misery. In corruption in the country, the leaders betray their people by transforming the state money which is in the coffers to become their personal property. They embezzle and lot of the resources for their personal good, and the speaker refers to these leaders simply as robbers in suit. They are pretentious and oppressive towards those who expose their wickedness. Thank you for watching.